Hi guys, today I'm going to be showing you a few tips on how to use watercolor for beginners. So let's get started. The first tip is about thinning out colors. Now, what I mean by thinning out colors is putting a paintbrush in a certain color, putting it back in the water, and then using it to paint. That way it becomes a lighter shade. Now, the reason you're going to want to use big brushes with it is because if you use medium-sized brushes, it will overlap in some spaces. What I mean by overlap is that some spaces will become too dark, or lighter, or too light in some cases. Now, what I usually do is I, of course, use at least a decent-sized brush, kind of like this for large spaces. Here is an example. Now, this is for big areas specifically. Now, as an example, if you take a big brush, like I have right here, dip it back in the water, right here, and then use it. It's a bit of a lighter shade, and I don't think you can really tell because of the camera, so I'm going to put in a little bit more, dip it in a little bit less, and there you go. Now, as you can see, it's a light shade. That way you have a pretty big area, and it's covered easily. Now, when you use a medium-sized brush and put it in, dip it in a little bit. Now I'm going to try and recreate the same type of size. Now as you can see, one is way lighter and one is way darker. The darker one you can see, but the lighter one you really can't. And this one, it stays the exact same shade. Now what I would do instead of doing this is actually add water to the palette. That way it deepens the color and you're able to get a bit of a more vivid tone and are able to make it last longer. As you can see, I use the same exact brush and that way it's a little bit more vivid and you get the exact same shade every time. The next tip is what I used to do, and it is using water and only water to spread a certain color. Now, not only does this not work, it creates different shades, which sometimes doesn't really work with it. Like I remember one time, I was trying to use one solid color on a bit of a small area, and instead of just adding more paint, I used water, and it ended up just making it thinner, and it looked really sloppy. Now, as an example, here I put some paint, and when I tried to use water to spread it, it kind of leaves a bit of a mark and then immediately dries out, which makes it have a bunch of different shades. Now the next tip is about testing colors. Now if you'll notice, when you add water to a certain color, it becomes even darker. I always test my colors because this is kind of a problem. You see, as you noticed, on the palette it looks like a really, really bright pastel pink, but on paper it's a bit of a magenta. Now, you can spread it around a little bit to thin it out and make it look a little bit lighter. But if you wanted to have the same exact shade, you would need to find a brighter pink if you wanted it to already be that exact shade. So, I would always use the lightest color if I wanted it to be a shade down. I hope these tips help you out. Make sure to leave a like and don't forget to subscribe. Bye!